Hey Raiders, Mr. Engel, doing our first faculty meeting via Zoom or YouTube or video. So in 22 years, I never really thought I'd be doing this, but excited to share this opportunity. And please bear with me and give me some positive patience as we move through and I make mistakes as we move forward. I want to go over a couple things today. And first, let me start with none of this is required. As we bring tips to you, that's what they are. They're tips for you to utilize, for us to help you make your life easier. Good administrators are here to support you. That's what we all want to do. My support staff is here to support you. Obviously, we have some compliance things that we have to do for the state of Texas or our district. And I promise I try to keep those as limited to the mandated things as possible. And I will continue to do that as we, continue to struggle through this new normal. However, I do want to make sure that we're still, striving to be the best teachers that we can. And I know so many of you are. So please don't over stress when I come out and I say, hey, here's some things to think about, or I share some ideas with you. I just want to make sure that I'm trying to support you in a way that allows you to be the most effective classroom teacher during this time as possible. So we're going to go over some things today. If you feel like they would benefit you and you'd like more information, great. They're all just ideas of things that we've seen being successful, and I think a good team and a good faculty is people who share success stories. So first thing is we're going to be creating a kind of positive vibe, what you would call like a virtual tour of all the things that good are happening in our school. And you'll be able to scroll through those and look at ideas and look at comments from one another and be able to pick and choose those things that you like and want to implement. So, like our Raider resource page, a one-stop shop, one of the things I'm trying to create is, how can we have a virtual environment where we share information? That may be something you want to consider for your classroom. Kids are used to, I'm a, visual learner, and so I'd be a student who look, not just for my ADD, but I'd look all around the room and I'd want to see anchor charts well, now as a virtual learner, that's kind of hard to do that. I see teacher resources and things posted in your Google Classrooms, all really good strategies, but we want to create opportunities so that kids can maybe have a one-stop shop in your classroom to see ideas. So if that's something that you think would be beneficial, we're going to work on some ideas to try to create that. And I'm going to use and model some of the great things that I've seen and that you've shared that are happening in your classrooms. Before we get any further, I want to start with one of my favorite books, and it's Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And the best line here is, and it's all small stuff. This year I've had to read this several times, and chapter 58 is one I want to just take a moment and read. I promise it's only a page long. And the chapter's title is Relax. What does it mean to relax? Despite hearing this term thousands of times during the course of our lives, very few people have deeply considered what it is really about. When you ask people, which I've done many times, what it means to relax, most will answer in a way that suggests that relaxing is something you plan to do later. You do it on vacation, in a hammock, when you retire, or when you get everything done. This implies, of course, that most other times, the other 95% of your life should be spent nervous, agitated, rushed, and frenzied. Very few actually come out and say so, but this is the obvious implication. Could this explain why so many of us operate as if life were one big, great emergency? Most of us postpone relaxation until our in basket is empty. Of course, it never is. It's useful to think of relaxation as a quality of heart that you can access on a regular basis rather than something reserved for some later time. You can relax now. It's helpful to remember that relaxed people can still be super achievers, and in fact, that relaxation and creativity go hand in hand. When I'm feeling uptight, for example, I don't even try to write, but when I'm feeling relaxed, my writing flows quickly and easily. Being more relaxed involves training yourself to respond differently to the dramas of life. Turning your melodrama into melodrama, I like that. It comes in part from reminding yourself over and over again with loving kindness and patience that you have a choice in how you respond to life. You can learn to relate to your thinking as well as your circumstances in new ways. With practice, making these choices will translate into a more relaxed self. Guys, I know it's been a new normal and it's very hard to seem relaxed right now. But it's important for us to think about some of what this says. I read another book that I like a lot, the Fish book, and it talks about choose your attitude. I think those things are so important. The work isn't going to change as we move forward, but our attitude towards one another, smiling, it doesn't cost anything to smile, and just know that we're all on this same adventure together. And some days are going to go great, some things are going to go great, and some things aren't. And that's okay. But collectively, we're raiders, and we need to stick together. I think that's an important step moving forward. So as we learn this new normal and as we try to implement new things, it's important that we work together to create some of those boundaries and have a common understanding. One of the things that we're doing to achieve this is to talk about what a model classroom looks like in our new normal at Southwest High School. Now, this isn't something that's intended for you to go, oh my gosh, I got to do this compliance thing for Mr. Engel and I have all these check things I have to do. It's a model. It's a perfect example of a lesson when all things go right. I'm not expecting that every single day. What I'm expecting is for you to look at it and go, this is an area that I want to grow in. Or this is an area I already do really well. Or gosh, I didn't think about that. And maybe those will be some ways in which you can grow as a teacher. But creating what we all determine as high quality instruction, I think is important because then it's ours. Then we can own it. When we allow others to set our definition of excellence, it's not meaningful because it doesn't touch our work. And so that's why we're doing this. Again, it's not a compliance piece. If you ever feel like you're doing something, well, I'm just doing this. This has no value to help my students. I want you to come immediately down to my office and tell me. Now, I'll be honest, two things. One, if it's something that's required by the state, I may agree with you, but we're still going to have to do it. And secondly, if you can tell me why it's not of value to your students, I'm very reasonable. I don't want us to do anything that's not about student learning and student success. So again, things should never be about being compliant for me. It's always going to be about what's driven to help our students be more successful here in our school. So I want to give some why behind why we're doing some of this. A couple of things that I really want us to think about when we're talking about our positive vibes and relax and how can we do that. I want to be the school that's known to really give positive praise and if we can just between now and Thanksgiving really honor kids who've been doing everything great, really make sure that we're making positive phone calls, really embrace that collective, man, I'm so proud and so willing to invest in the kids who are doing the right thing because they have to hear it. We have so many kids who are achieving in this new normal, and despite all that's going on, they're thriving. And so I want to make sure we take the time to honor our A honor roll students, our AB honor roll students, our kids who are in every Google Meet, our kids who've turned in everything, kids who have great behavior or doing extra things, because it's important for us to make sure that we're publicly praising the types of behaviors we want to continue to see. Or eventually we won't see them. And so please continue to make sure you keep those on the forefront. The student of the month, student of the week, most improved student. I mean, however you want to word it, just make sure you're trying to publicly praise kids as often as you can over the next, 30 days. Now, if that seems like there's something extra to do, I hope it isn't. It's just taking the time to honor what kids are already doing for you. So, yeah, it may mean putting a kid's name up on a board or something like that to make it public, but I think you'll find it well worth it. And I think you'll really make a kid's day. And I appreciate so many of you who are already doing that and making it public. So thank you. I want to talk real quick about the Fundamental 5, and I'll be doing some work with new teachers on this. And new teachers, if you could have read and through chapters 1 through 3, I think the due date for that is this Friday. And again, I'm just trying to grow people and give them all the tools and resources necessary to be successful. If you've forgotten some of what's going in the Fundamental 5, it's a really short read. It's a very friendly read. And I just want to talk one thing about framing the lesson as we move forward. Why is framing the lesson important? It simply gives kids a roadmap to know where they're going. Two things I really think is important with the new normal of education. One is we can't cover as much content. There's just no way moving forward we're going to be able to have as much content covered with the hybrid model and virtual learning that we have in the past. And that's okay. So it's absolutely critical that you identify the most important TEKS and make sure that we leverage those TEKS for student success. But it's important that kids have each lesson framed out so they understand the roadmap for the day. So I'm not looking for 5.3, integers or linear equations. I mean, put out, what the kids are going to do in class today and what's expected of them by the end of class. It's keep it simple, but keep it real. I think it's important for kids to know what they're learning and what they have to have learned by the end of the day. So that's framing the lesson. It's giving them boundaries and a map as to where it's going to go, and kind of breaks it down for them as far as keeping them focused in regards to where the lesson stops and starts and where they need to get to be considered successful in the lesson. So again, Fundamental 5, gladly will share anything with there. If any conversations you'd like to have, let me know. Mr. Wilson has created some quick formatives that you can use. He's created some videos. I want to thank him for just going above and beyond to try to integrate our technology. So thank you.
Hey everybody, Sammy here. I want to show you a new extension add-on for you to use during your classes, and that is the resize tab, or the resize option. So if you go to Chrome extension and you type in resize window, it is this tab resize. It's brand new and it will allow you to do split screen. So let me show you what it looks like. I've already installed it. You click on it, you get 4 choices. So you can do the 2x2, gives you 4 different windows. We can go to the 2/1. We can go to the side-by-side. And we can go just to the single one. You can also align which way you want your tabs to be. There's some settings that you can do for the alignment. You can have an empty tab. So if you just want one tab open and then your desktop, you can have the single tab. So lots of cool things to do. I would go ahead and try it out. Let me show you what Google Meets looks like. So if we start a meeting, and I am going to go ahead and mute the audio, and then we do this resize tab, and we're going to do a side by side. I can go ahead and go to Google Meets, and I want to mute my audio, and I'm going to go ahead, I'll keep my camera open and start. And you can see that I'm in here side by side. Let's see. Not sure why my camera's not. Oh, there's my cameras. Pretty bad. So we're having internet issues. So there you can see the side by side. And say I want to maybe do something else. I have my side by side here, and I can add another one, another one, another one. So this is a way of having multiple screens. Just thought you'd like to know that new feature, and this way you can see your students as well as present. If you have any questions, let me know. Bye.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to use a free digital whiteboard program called Whiteboard.fi. If you're a teacher who uses physical whiteboards in your classroom as a way for students to respond to questions, then you're definitely going to like this program because it essentially replicates that experience in a digital environment. And Whiteboard.fi also has some features that make it a really effective educational tool. So for example, you can do things like fix a background and then have students write directly on top of that background. You can push your teacher whiteboard out to individual student whiteboards. You can wipe all whiteboards at the same time. And there are also lots of different ways that you and your students can interact with the whiteboard, such as using drawing tools, text tools, and even adding math language. So I definitely think that this program has a place in your teacher toolkit. My name is Sam Carey, and this is my YouTube channel for the New EdTech Classroom. As always, if you appreciate the tips that I share in this video, you can show your support by hitting the like button, subscribing to my channel, and hitting the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of my weekly video updates. So let's jump in now and take a look at Whiteboard.fi. All right, to start, I'm going to go to Whiteboard.fi. Students don't need accounts to use this program, and it's also not going to store your data or your students' data in the program. So every time you use the program, you're going to set up a new class and a new whiteboard. I'll show you later how to download work so that you can keep it for future reference if you want. So first I'm going to go here to New Class. Then I'll start by giving my class a name. And then below you'll see that you have an option to enable a waiting room, and you would have to approve them before they would be able to get into your whiteboard. I would recommend that you set up the waiting room, so I'm going to go ahead and check this box. Enabling manual save mode will disable the autosave function and set it up so that students would have to manually save their work. You might want to consider checking this box if your students have limited connectivity, because it's going to make the program run a little bit faster. Then when I'm ready to get started, I'll go down here to create new class. And if you ever want to access the settings again, you can also just go up here to the settings cog, and that will allow you to change those settings as well. So now on this split screen, I'm going to pull up a student account and just enter the direct link so that students can get right into the whiteboard. You'll see that the first thing that it does is prompt the student to enter their name, and then they can select to join the class. After they've clicked to join the class, since I enabled the wait room, it will put them in the lobby. And then on the teacher end, I'll see that a student has come in, and I can choose whether or not to allow that student to come into the class or whether or not to kick them out. So the only reason I would choose to use the kick function here is if I didn't recognize a student name, just for privacy issues. And now you'll see that once the student has been allowed in the room, a personal whiteboard has popped up on their side, and I can also see that student whiteboard on my end as well. And as we repeat this process with more students, you'll continue to see additional student whiteboards show up in your room. So now let's look at how the program works. First, on the student end, you'll see that there's an option for them to toggle the teacher whiteboard. If they don't click this button, they'll only ever be able to see their whiteboard, which you can see here below. So you'll notice that as I'm writing on my teacher board, the student isn't going to see anything on their end until they hit that toggle teacher whiteboard button. So the first tool here is a typical digital pen tool that you can use to write directly onto the board. And then with this next tool, you can also create your own custom shapes. There are pre-made shapes as well. So this one will give you a square and this one would drop in a circle. This text tool will allow you and your students to type directly onto the whiteboard. And then that text can be resized and dragged around wherever you want it to go. Next, you also have an option to bring an image onto the board. So here, if you select an image from your computer, you can bring that image in, resize it, drag it around, and put it wherever you want it to go. The next two tools are copy and paste tools. So that's just going to allow you to essentially duplicate anything that you already have created on the board. And then there's a zoom in and zoom out tool, as well as a realign tool that will reset it to the way it was originally set up. If you click on download, that will allow you to download what you had just created as either an image or a PDF file. And then with the bring forward and move back tools, you can also change the way the layering is set up on your board. So for example, you could send this rectangle back so that the circle is in front of it. Then underneath the drawing tool, you'll also see that there are lots of different options for colors for the digital pen, and you can also change the pen thickness. And then you'll see that there's also an eraser tool that would allow you to erase what you had just written on the board. This next flatten image tool is really useful. So if you choose to flatten the image, it's going to take everything that you just created and set it up as the background. So by choosing this tool, it will effectively set it up as a static, uneditable background that you can write directly on top of. You'll also see that you have the ability to set up the background as graph paper. Then you can also use the math equation editor in order to bring in different math equations. So here I can create a fraction by hitting 2\5. And then you can also create exponents by using the caret button. One of the things I like most about this program is the ability to set a background and then be able to write directly on top of it. As I showed before, one option is that you could use the flatten image tool in order to create a fixed background. Another choice would be that you could create an image in another program. So here, for example, I created a graphic organizer in Google Slides, and I'm just going to add that as an image to Whiteboard Fi. So let's say that we were doing a lesson about digital citizenship, and I wanted my students to just do a preview activity determining what they would hear, see, or feel if someone was practicing digital citizenship. Now that I have my graphic organizer, I'm going to want to model for students, and here I'll want to make sure that they're able to actually see what I'm doing on my whiteboard. So it's going to be important that I prompt students to click the toggle teacher whiteboard button so that they're actually able to see what I'm doing on my whiteboard. Then what I can do is add some text here. So for example, I might say that when I think of someone practicing digital citizenship, that makes me feel respected. You'll notice that when I start filling out my teacher whiteboard, it's going to show up on the student end as well. Now, let's say that after I've modeled, I also want students to be able to fill in this same graphic organizer as well. What I can do is go up here to the push button. Then I can choose to push my whiteboard as a background to student whiteboards. Once I do this, you'll see that that graphic organizer, as well as my example, shows up directly on the student whiteboards. Then students can add their own responses. So for example, a student might add their own text to say that what they see when someone is practicing digital citizenship are kind words. You'll also notice that as students are writing on their boards, I can see their answers coming in live when I scroll down to look at all the student whiteboards. I can also click on a student's whiteboard to get a closer look at what they're doing. And if I like that answer and want to be able to show it to the rest of the class, I can go to the Actions drop-down menu and choose to push the student's response out to the teacher whiteboard. So you'll notice that once I do that, now that student's answer is going to show up on the teacher whiteboard for everyone else to see as well. Then if another student has an answer that I also want to show up on the teacher whiteboard, I can choose to push their answer back to the teacher whiteboard as well. But notice that when I do that, it's going to erase the other student's response and only push that new student answer to the board. If you wanted to show all student responses at the same time, your only choice is going to be to share your teacher screen. And if you do this but want to keep student responses anonymous, you might want to select to hide student names from each of the boards. So let's say we're done with this activity, but I'd like to save all of the responses so that I can post them on a place like Google Classroom later for everyone to review. I can choose to go up here to the settings cog and then download all of the whiteboards as a PDF file. Then if you're ready to move on to a different activity, you can choose to clear all student whiteboards so that all of the whiteboards are cleaned and you can start over again with something new. I really appreciate how useful Whiteboardify is. And if you have any questions or ideas about how to use it with your students, I'd love for you to put those in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching my video to the end. If you found the tips that I shared helpful, please share it with other teachers that you know, hit the like button, and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of my weekly updates. You can also check out some of the other tutorials I have on my channel by clicking on one of those 2 videos above. And if you're interested in downloading any of the resources that I've created and show on my videos, please visit my website at www.newedtechclassroom.com. Lastly, if you want to check me out on social media, my Twitter handle, Facebook page, and Pinterest account are all in the description below. Thanks so much and have a great week.
Hey everybody, Sammy here. Just want to show you a quick formative assessment you can use with your students while you're presenting a Google Slides. You start your Google Slides and you go into present mode right here. The little drop down arrow, just click on it and present and do presenter view. And then once presenter view comes up, this is where you are going to present your slides to whether it's Google Classroom or Google Meets or whatever. You want to hit Audience Tools. When you click Audience Tools, there's a Start here. Just click on that. And now you are in a presenter mode. And so the kids can click on this link here and they can ask questions. So if I go up and do a split screen and I move this to the screen, as I am asking a question like so this is the student asking a question and they submit it, it shows up on your presenter view. And so you can either send that over to your presenter mode or you can re-explain what you're just asking. So this is a really cool way for students to be able to ask you questions while you're presenting, whether they're in the classroom or they're at home virtually, because you're going to present this in your Google Meets. Just thought I'd show you that. It's a really cool little thing.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to significantly increase engagement in your classroom by making interactive Google Slides using a program called Pear Deck. If I ask students to raise their hand in response to a question, I'll be lucky to get maybe 50% participation. And when I call on a student, I only end up hearing from that single student's perspective. Only hearing from around half of my class simply isn't enough. In order for all students to learn, teachers need to be using a variety of active participation strategies to engage students in different ways. Pear Deck is an incredibly easy to use Google Slides add-on that you can use to transform your Google Slides from a one-way lecture to an interactive conversation with your students. Pear Deck is a clear example of how education technology can increase engagement and participation and make your class a more equitable space for all students. I can honestly say that whenever I use Pear Deck, I consistently get nearly 100% participation from my students. This is my YouTube channel for the New Ed Tech Classroom, where I provide practical ideas and tips for how to transform your class with education technology. Using Pear Deck, students can respond to short answer questions that you ask, respond to multiple choice questions, answer numerically in math class, and even drag icons or draw an image to respond to a question. First, I'm going to show you what interactive slides look like from a teacher perspective as well as a student perspective, so you get a sense of what it would be like to use it in the classroom. Then I'll show you how to use Pear Deck to set up interactive Google Slides, as well as talk about some of the most important settings that you need to know to get started using it in your classroom. In order to effectively use interactive Google Slides, you're obviously going to need to have students on laptops. It can also work to have students working in pairs. As the teacher, I have the ability to advance the slides that my students will see on their screen. So you can see on this slide that I've written a question that my students will respond to. Now let's look at what that would look like if I were a student. Here you now see what the Google slide looks like on the student end. They're going to see the question that they need to answer, as well as a box where they can record their response. So let's see what happens when I have a few student answers to these questions. On my teacher slide, I can now see that 4 out of the 4 students that are currently in this slides presentation have responded to my question. In order to see their answers, I can click Show Responses. If I want to get students' attention and ask them to stop responding to the question, I can hit the Lock Screens button, and that will lock the student's Google Slide presentation so that they're no longer able to respond. After students have responded to the question, I'll project these answers in front of the class, and then we'll have a quick discussion about what people notice. I've also used this as a way for students to take notes based on what they've learned from their classmates so that they can build off each other's knowledge. On this next slide, you'll see that I'm asking students to read an article to answer the question that I'm posing. As you can see on the student-facing slide, the website URL has been pushed directly to a student's Google slide, so they can now read the article that you want them to read and respond to a question or discuss the article. Now I'm back on my teacher-facing slide, and I'm going to ask students to respond to a question in multiple choice form. Here you can see what the multiple choice options look like as a student. Later, I'm going to show you how you can customize the answer choices that students see. When I click Show Responses, we can now see as a class how we responded to a question. Multiple choice questions can be used in all kinds of ways, like checking for understanding, seeing what students already know, or providing them with choice about where they want to go next. In this teacher-facing slide, I'm asking students to respond to a question numerically. Here on the student-facing slide, you'll see that a student can input a number into their answer box. When I click Show Responses, the dots represent the numbers that my students entered. Similar to multiple choice, a numerical answer can be used as a check for understanding in a math class or for a question that would require a numerical response in another subject. I've set up this question to have students draw their response as an answer. Here on the student-facing slide, you'll see students have a variety of different drawing tools that they can use to sketch out their answer to a question. Now, when I choose to show the answers, I can see and project all the drawings that students drew on their slides. On this teacher-facing slide, I'm asking students to drag an icon to the box that represents their answer choice. Here you can see I've set it up so that students can select from either a thumb up or thumb down that they can drag to the box to represent their answer. And back on my teacher-facing slide, when I select Show Responses, we can see where everyone dragged their icon. You can use this for a quick check for understanding or as a way for students to vote on a particular issue or topic. Here's another example of a slide I created for students to be able to drag an icon. This is a model of how I could use the draggable icons as a way to give students choice about where they want to go next. A student would drag their icon to the choice that they have selected. And then when I go back to the teacher slide and show the answers, we can all see where everyone in the class voted. In this last slide, I'm going to close out the lesson by having students write a short answer response. Here you'll see that I also inserted a timer to let students know how long they would have to construct their response for this exit ticket. You'll see at the bottom of the slides that it shows how many students in the class have responded to the question you've asked. I'll often use this as an added motivator for my class. I'll say to them, hey, we have just a couple more people that need to respond to really make sure that I get that 100%. And it works pretty much every single time. Once I'm ready to end the session, I can click end, title it so that I can find it when I'm in my Pear Deck account. If I click publish student takeaways, when I end the session, you'll see that I have a link to their responses that's now in my Google Drive that I could choose to share directly back to Google Classroom for my students to see, or I could give them to my individual students. Student takeaways is also just a way to hold students accountable for what they wrote and how they participated in the interactive Google Slides session. All right, so let's say that you're starting from scratch and you have yet to set up Pear Deck. Here you can see I'm on my Google Slides homepage. I'm going to go to add-ons. I'll go to get add-ons. Here you'll see that there are lots of different Google Slides add-ons that you can choose from. Pear Deck is right at the top. I'm going to select it, click install, and then it's going to have me create an account. Once you've created an account, you can go up to add-ons. You'll see Pear Deck for Google Slides add-ons, select open Pear Deck add-ons, and here you'll be given the different choices for the types of questions that you want to add to your Google Slide. You'll notice that on the teacher Google Slides I created, that I set them up with questions that students could actively respond to. This is definitely an important part of how you create your Google Slides. When you're making them, you're gonna have to think about the fact that you're asking students interactive questions. You'll see on the right-hand side that all the different question types are available to you. So on this slide, if you want students to respond in a short answer question, select text, select update slide, and now it's added that interactive question that you saw in the demo. In order to assign a website for students to go to, click the website button, and then you're going to enter the URL that you want to push out directly to students. After you enter it, you'll see that a preview of the website comes up below, and that's the website that's going to show up on the student-facing slide when you're using Pear Deck. Select Update Slide to put the website in your presentation. On this slide, I'm planning to have students respond in multiple choice form. To do that, I'm going to click the multiple choice button, and here you can select the values or answer choices that you want students to choose from. Here, in order to answer this question, students will respond with a number. To add a numerical question to the slide, I'll click number. And then when students respond, they can choose any numerical value. On this slide, I had students drag their icon to the choice that best represented their answer. You can add the draggable by clicking the draggable button. It is also important to note that the draggables are part of a premium Pear Deck account. You will have access to the premium features when you first sign up for a trial account. To add an icon, click on the draggable button. Here you'll be given some different choices for the icons that will show up on student computers. You can change the color and also the size of the icon. Lastly, to add a drawing, which is also a premium feature, click the draw button, and this will add the drawing tools that you saw in the demo. In order to begin the interactive Google Slides session, you're going to go up to present lesson. Then students will go to joinpd.com. You'll give them the class code that they need in order to enter the session. When you're ready to begin, click start class. And then the slides that you are seeing on your screen will also appear on your students' computers. Now, let's say that a student comes into class late or didn't get the code the first time around. That's not a problem. They can still see the code at the top of the slides presentation throughout the entire thing. If you're just going to use Pear Deck with your students in your classroom, I would suggest that you go to the settings and change it so that it requires student logins. This way you'll be able to associate responses that students make to their email, which is going to make it easier to keep this Pear Deck private to just your students. It's also going to help you keep track of who responded in what way and will allow you to share the students' work back with them. If you want to go back after the presentation is done to look at how students responded, click Review Sessions, select the session that you want to review, and there you'll see all of your students' responses to each of the questions that you asked on the Google slide. You'll notice on this one, all the students have random icons and names. That's because I had the demo presentation set up for anyone to join. That can be a useful feature if you're using Pear Deck with a group of people that you don't know. For example, if you're presenting at a conference or to a group of teachers and you don't necessarily want to have everyone have to log in with their email. In my classroom, interactive Google Slides have just become a part of the suite of active participation strategies that I use to make sure I'm engaging my students and asking them to participate in different ways in order to ensure I'm hearing from all voices in my classroom. If you have any questions about how I use Pear Deck to create interactive Google Slides, please ask in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching my video to the end. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button and share it with other teachers that you know. And subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of my weekly video updates. Thanks so much and have a great week.
Hey everybody, Sammy here one more time to give you another example of formative assessments you can do during your synchronous and asynchronous teaching, whether it's through Google Classroom or lecture style videos, pretty much at any time. And so I didn't make these. You know how we borrow things as educators, but I did compile them all into a complete section for you. So I'm going to go into Drive, and this will be shared to all of you through email. And there is a folder in my Drive called Formative Assessments. And so there's all of these forms that are formative assessments. We have our Think, Pair, Share, and our summary. There's an example of a math formative you could use, a non-example. So if you're trying to have kids do a something that is not an example of what you're talking about. You have the KWL, inquiry for video prompt, inquiry for a text prompt, inquiry for an image prompt. You have the free write, exit ticket, example of an inquiry for video, example of inquiry for image, and an example of effectiveness, a demo form that you can alter yourself. The burning question. This is the one that I would always have available for my students to use during any type of lecture, presentation, whatever. If you want a pre-background knowledge, analogy, agree or disagree, and the 3, 2, 1. And so these are just forms that you can copy into your Google Drive, and you can use them to have up during your presentations. And if you do a dual screen, then you can also see the live results as you're presenting. But here's an example burning question. You can alter these in any way you want. Say you don't want the email address, but last name, first name, what is the burning question they have, and do an open response question too. So, you know, they have this question, why don't they understand? So these are just different examples for you to use. Just to slide into your Google Classrooms or your Google Meets or whatever. And so again, that is going to be formative assessment, and that will be saved to all of you. And I'll send the link out soon. Hopefully this will be beneficial to you. Okay, bye.
What's up world, I'm Mr. Vaca, and today I'm going to give you a basic guide to Google Jamboard. First thing you always need to do is go to google.com, make sure that you're logged in here in the top right corner, and then click the waffle iron, the Google Apps icon, and then you are going to be able, if you don't see it right up here, the app, come scroll down and then you'll find Jamboard. Once you click on that Jamboard icon, you'll be redirected here to your home page, and you'll have the same kind of format as that you have in Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets. And I've only created one Jamboard. It's right here. It's called Admin Team Test Jamboard. And I just want to give you a quick glance at all the different things you can do here. This is page 1 of 4 pages, or 4 different whiteboards. And to the left over here, you have the different things that you can use to write or erase on your board. Like right here, I have a pen. If I click on the pen, I can then write, hi. It's kind of hard if you have never done it with a mouse before, not gonna lie. But if you click it again, you can change the type of pen. So this one is the second option. Here's the third option. This is more of like an actual dry erase marker. And then the third option is like a paintbrush. Now you can change the colors here if you want to make it, you know, red, green, blue, all that different kind of fun stuff. And then our next icon right here is the erase button. And this just is a simple eraser, and you can, you know, do what you need to do, erase. This is the cursor, so now I want to go between the first and the second slide. If I want, I can now click up here to my next frame. And this is a diagram that another admin team practiced or tried to make with the whiteboard. And here we have a blank frame and then another blank frame. So if I wanted to go here, and let's say I wanted to clear this board, there's right here a clear frame button, and if you click on that, it completely erases the board so that you don't have to click this eraser icon and do the entire board, because that can take a long time. If you want, you can hit Command Z and undo something that you just did. And this right here is a sticky note. And if you click this icon, you can have a sticky note saying test. Click save, and there it is. Now I want to get out of it. I just hit cancel, and I'm back to the screen. And as you can see here, we have a new yellow sticky note and the blue sticky note. Over here is an image. So if you want to click the add image icon, you can search the web just like you would in Google Docs or Google Slides, or if you have a file on your hard drive or your desktop, you can upload it right through here. So let's say, I click here, I can find the file, upload it. You can also do a Google image search, and I could say tiger, and it will give me pictures of a tiger, and I can click select. It will upload that image to the whiteboard. So if you're doing a social studies project or an art project, you can put the picture up here and you can write comments, like, look at this, dangerous, all that different stuff, clear frame. And now over here you have a background, and you can change the background type of your whiteboard. So if you are a math teacher, you might benefit from using this right here, how to turn it into a grid format, where you can either have students color it in, or if you want to make sure that it looks more uniform, this can help you out a lot. There are other things. If you want to have a blue background, sometimes it's easier to see if you have that, but then if you clear the frame, that doesn't clear the background. You have to go back to this if you want to change your background. Now, let's say this bottom one, I have a laser. I'm going to go back right here to this, and I wanted to draw the attention to what I am presenting. These Jamboards will be live, and you could present using them. And if you click on this laser tool, you will then have this laser saying, okay, boys and girls, focus on this. Why is this one different? So it's just a cool way to highlight what you are doing, all that different fun stuff. Now, if you want to add a new board, all you need to do is click this box up here. This is the expand frame bar. And if you click on that, it shows you right now I have 4 different boards. If you click this ... I can duplicate a board, and it's also how you delete a board. If you want, you can add another frame by clicking one of these blue plus circles, and then you can, again, get rid of the stuff that you don't want by doing delete. If you wanted to, you could even drag and drop if you wanted to change the order. So that's the basics of Google Jamboard. Hopefully I covered your questions, but if you have any more, leave them down in the comment box below. Also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, and share the video out with all of your friends. It helps out the channel a lot. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to work hard, play hard, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you. Thank our department chairs. They've shared a lot of wonderful things. Thanks so many of you who are coming up with software and things that we can utilize out there. Mr. Wilson and I are also, we have purchased some cameras for you. Right now we're working on getting the right connections and everything for you to utilize that in your interactive panels or in your classroom. So know that we are working at getting some technology to you to make life a little bit easier for you. With that being said, if there's other materials or something that you're like, man, if I just had this, my life would be so much easier. Come talk to me. That's what we want to do. Obviously, I want to be a support to you during this time of kind of the new normal or the crisis that we're in. And, I want to give you every tool that you need to be successful to help students. That's how I'm going to help facilitate this learning. So obviously I have high standards, but I can't push high standards if I don't provide high support. And so I want you to know that, yes, I want to be the best high school in Fort Worth. But I know that takes incredible effort on your part and takes an incredible amount of support, patience, and kindness on my team's part. So I want to know that moving forward that I know you're all working hard. I see my role as someone here to help you and get you the things you need. So please don't sit back and say, gosh, if I just had this, or if I could just ask. If you're struggling with students, we have a team of people ready to help you with that student. Just ask. Communication is key, especially in crisis. And so I think, obviously as we continue through our crisis, we have to not just increase our level of support, increase our communication so we can really narrow those focuses, the focus of need down. One of the things else I've noticed is going into classrooms, and some of you have asked me about, is how do I get the kids to interact with one another, and how do I get to all the kids? Ms. McCready did a Google Meets kind of video for you to watch, and that's a different way to break kids out.
So one of the new features in Google Meet is actually the breakout rooms. And I found this really helpful in a lot of different scenarios. So the first one is if a student has a question and they want to ask you in private, you can keep the whole class in the main room, send that one student to a breakout room. You join them, you answer their question, or they share their screen with you, you work through something, and then the two of you come back to your main room. Another thing is when you want students to work in pairs. And we do this all the time in Yearbook and in AMP. So Yearbook, they're working together on projects, and the only way I can do that is through the breakout rooms. Same thing for AMP. They're putting together their newscasts. So I want to show you how that works. So here I am, I'm in my class, I have students in the class, and I'll give them a topic. So guys, what our topic is we need to create a newscast. So I want you to think about what is the top story. And I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, and you're going to discuss this. So I'm going to put Mario and Amelia together, and Andrew and Bree. So I'm going to come over here to the Shapes tool, and then you click Breakout Rooms. Then I'm going to just need 2 rooms. So right here, it already put Amelia and Bree together, but that's not how I want it to go. So what I'll do here is I can start typing in Andrew's name, and it adds him, and then I can click and drag Amelia down to be with Mario. So I have Breakout Room 1 and Breakout Room 2. You can even click in here and rename them. So for Yearbook, I name it by their spreads. So I know when I go into that room, I'm talking about the spread about student jobs. When I go into another room, I'm talking about something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the rooms, and the students will join those rooms. To open them, just click Open Rooms. See here, you see like the green that moves while they join. Now I'm the only one left in the main room. I have the option to join any of the breakout rooms that I have going, so I could have an entire class full. So I'm going to first come and join Andrew and Bree. So just click Join, and you see everyone's name is still in the solid type. If they were to disappear, it'll turn gray, so then you know they've left and they're not there anymore. So make sure when you first log in, you are going to be muted. You have to unmute yourself. So Andrew and Bree, what do y'all think? What are the top stories? Okay, Bree, what do you think is important to people today? Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to jump and check in the next room. I want the two of you to discuss and figure out which story you want to lead with, and I'll come back in and check on you. So what I'll do is I'm just going to click Join, and I go to the next breakout room. So they're already talking. I need to come and unmute myself. Okay, so Mario and Amelia, what did you all decide? What's the top story today? That's absolutely current, and that's something that could affect us for generations. So I think that's really good. Another thing to keep in mind in your breakout rooms, you see right here I don't see my chat. To see my chat, I go back to the arrow tool, and then I click on my chat, and now I'm sending this chat just to those of us in the breakout room. So you see it says 3, so it's just going to the 3 of us. And now they got my comment and chat. I could give them any other feedback. To go back and check on my other class, I come click on my shapes, go to breakout rooms. I still see that Andrew and Bree are in there. So I'm going to tell them, okay guys, you're off to a great start. I'm going to go check on the next group. Thank you. So once I've finished with my breakout rooms, I can just click close rooms, close all rooms now. And I have returned to the main call. So now make sure you have to unmute again. I'm back in the main call, and so is everyone else that was in the breakout rooms. So that's just a really easy way to break students up, allow for student discussion, and to help everything go through. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks, guys.
And she's been really effective with that and seen student engagement kind of and kids interaction change. Pear Deck is another really good site we're seeing some good things out. Flipgrid, again, other high quality things we're seeing out of it. And I know that so many of you are doing other things that we want to continue to share and build our toolkit for all teachers. But again, after watching this video, I don't want you to feel like, oh gosh, I have to do this. No, you just have to be successful. And if this tool works for you, great. If this tool doesn't work for you and you have another tool that allows students to be successful, great. I want you to know I trust you. I trust you to make decisions with the best interests of our students at the forefront. So again, this is a video. Haven't done it before. Faculty meeting, kind of weird not to get to see you and get to read faces, as I'm sure it is for you when you're doing your lessons with students. But I know that we're off to a good start. I'm very proud of your actions. I'm proud of our students' actions. I know it's been a tremendous amount of work, and I want to say thank you. And know that, again, we're in this together. I want to make sure that you have what you need to be successful, and I appreciate the energy, effort, and commitment you have to making sure our students are successful. Thank you for everything you do. Go Raiders.